Leela Singh, your podcast host, and I'd like to welcome you to the My Brand HQ podcast, all things personal branding for career acceleration. This podcast is for talented, ambitious career professionals like you who are wanting to be perceived as a thought leader, to be top of mind to those that matter, and to make an impact and stand out, be that in your team, your organization, or your industry, and to be inspired by other successful leaders. I will be interviewing high-achieving career professionals who have carved out a successful career in their field and are open to sharing their career journey, their challenges, their learnings and insights with you, someone who is looking to establish your personal brand and accelerate your career. Through my personal branding and coaching practice, I enable career professionals primarily in the technology industry to earn more money, to increase their salary. In fact, I spoke to all of my past clients that I've worked with over several years and learned that actually overall, they've received an average of 47% increase in their package. Would that be a great place to be? They've also all achieved at least one, if not more, promotions or moved on to a higher level in their career at another organization. And they're looking to advance their career while showing up as the best version of themselves. If this sounds like you, then do reach out to me and let's have a chat. And why do I do this? Well, during my corporate career spanning 25 years, I quickly realized that hard work alone was not enough to get me to where I wanted to be and the success that I strive for. And my belief is that hard work, coupled with creating and establishing a strong personal brand, can both influence and accelerate your career and get you to where you want to be. Hi there, I thought I'd share something a little bit different with you this week. I was recently interviewed by Simone Vincenzi on his podcast entitled GTeX Explode Your Expert Business Show. And this is a podcast I'd highly recommend if you're someone who's either looking to embark on the journey of starting your business or looking to grow your existing one. And in this interview, we spoke about the importance of personal branding for success, the 6 core components to creating a powerful personal brand, and the fact that I learned anything is possible. So head over and hear what I had to say.
Hey, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of Explode Your Expert Business Show. And today is another explosive episode with the one and only Leila Singh. How are you doing, Leela, today?
Hi, Simone. I'm very well, thank you. Good to see you.
Oh, that's brilliant. I'm glad to hear that you're well. And as I said like before, like you look incredibly fantastic, gorgeous here today. Like you really brought it for the interview. I feel really flattered. I wish you dressed up for me. I know it's not the case, but I think I feel really flattered anyway. But no, we're talking about personal branding. So before we get into the nuts and bolts, what got you so passionate about personal branding?
What got me passionate about personal branding? I say it's really, you know, they say when you look back on things, you join the dots. And for me, I think that's where it really became clear for me that that is what I want to be doing because it aligns with my story. And if I look at the last 25 years and how I've evolved and I've grown personally and professionally, that's what I realized was a big part of that helped me. And so for me, I'm passionate about enabling other people to do the same, to achieve the same, and to realize what is possible.
So tell us a bit more about your journey, because it's not that I'm assuming that it's not that one day you started and you said, I'm just going to do personal branding. I know you have a really interesting corporate career, actually, and you use your personal brand to achieve incredible success. So tell me a bit more about your corporate journey.
My corporate journey started about 25 years ago. I know I look young, but hey.
So when you were 5, basically,
yeah,
is like...
Exactly.
Great.
And so when I studied accountancy, I did my ACCA, and then I embarked on my finance career and accountancy career. And back then I was the shy, timid, sort of quiet church mouse that just kept my head down, and I worked really hard. And I lacked confidence in myself. So I always looked around, thought everyone else is clever and smarter than me, and you know, could do better. So I believe, because it worked up until then, that hard work alone would get me the success I wanted in my career. So that was my approach. That was my strategy. And then a few years in, I had my finance director who'd hired me. He was leaving the company, and he came over to have a chat before he left. And he gave me a really good piece of advice, which was that he said to me, when we interviewed you, you talked about your career aspirations. And he said, I've no doubt you can achieve them. You've got the ability. He said, but you're going to struggle. Why? Because people don't know who you are. They don't know what you're about. They don't know what you do. They don't know your strengths. So my advice to you is that you need to speak up. You need to make yourself known, because that is going to help you to achieve, you know, the goals that you want in your career. And I sat with that, and it totally made sense. But because I lacked the confidence, I didn't really know what to do with it. And a year or so later, and I don't know really where this came from, if I'm honest, because I enjoyed the work that I was doing, but I just felt like there was something more to life.
Yeah.
And so I started exploring what I really enjoyed in terms of work, tasks, activities, that kind of thing. And long story short, I decided to change career. I took a 50% pay cut at the time, when I was literally just buying my first house with a mortgage.
Perfect moment to do that, right?
Yeah. So I've got a mortgage based on my accountancy salary. I'm now taking a 50% cut. My dad and my mum were like, what are you doing? So nah, it'll work itself out. It'll be fine. And decided I was going to pursue recruitment consultancy. So I went into recruitment, which, if you imagine someone of my character at that time going into recruitment, which requires you to be cold calling, to going out and meeting finance directors, CFOs, etc., and you know, building those relationships, I stretched myself so far out of my comfort zone. But because I'd done it, I did the due diligence. It wasn't like on a whim at all. But I then found myself in a situation where, on my first day, here's your desk, here's a list of companies, go call them and get some interviews for this guy, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I did it because I was there, right? I was like, got a mortgage paid now. And you know, I just went along and I did my best. And over time, my confidence started to really grow. But again, I didn't really recognize this until later on. And I was the highest biller in my first year, which surprised me because I was with a team of experienced people. But wow. I think because my background was accountancy and I could have more meaningful conversations with the clients and with the candidates, I think that's what helped me, whereas they didn't have that background. Anyway, 2 years on, and did really well, really enjoyed it. And the market turned, I got made redundant, and I then was like, do I stay in recruitment? Do I go back to accountancy, which is kind of the safer option? And then I got offered an opportunity at a company called Electronic Data Systems, which at the time was the second largest IT outsourcing company. IT outsourcing was becoming really huge around that time. And I'd heard of the company because a number of my friends had actually gone through their graduate program in different areas.
Yeah.
So I thought, yeah, this looks really good. No clear role, no job description as such, but it was my characteristics, the confidence that I had built that got me that job, because they didn't have a job spec, and the stuff they were talking about that it would cover, like high level, I hadn't done any of it. I had no experience. But I knew if I'd gone there 2 years earlier, I wouldn't have gotten a look in because I've been too quiet. But they needed to come in and create that change.
I have a few questions now based on your journey so far, and I want to go back actually a moment when you had that meeting with your manager. When she said, I have no doubt you can achieve all these goals, you got great career aspiration, but you're going to struggle because no one knows you. And I guess that deep down you knew that already, or you had that feeling. So how did it feel in that moment having that conversation with her?
it was a mixture of, it was mixed emotions, because I knew it was good advice, but like I said, I didn't know what to really do with it, because I was kind of scared, because I didn't speak up, I didn't make myself known, I just was like, kept a really low profile at work. So I struggled with it. I did struggle, and a lot of like the decision to go into recruitment wasn't based on that at all. Maybe subconsciously it was, I don't know, but it's kind of, it's only, like I said, looking back as I moved along, that I started to connect the dots and see how things had evolved for me and helped me.
Yeah, no, that makes perfect sense. And, kudos to you, because some people with that kind of conversation, like the kind of conversation can break some people, because then they can buy into the fact of, oh, but this is who I am, and therefore I'm always going to struggle. Like I cannot change. While you went through a process of transformation. So now let's look at, because I want to move into the different pillars of your methodology in terms of personal branding. But before we get there, I want just to ask you, because I remember in some of the conversations that we had, you mentioned that actually your last job experience last corporate experience had a pivotal role in terms of you finding, like putting together what like your branding system is, and that's how you applied it to in yourself, like to get known. So can you give us can you give me an example of like how building your personal brand in that corporate environment, which I want to remind everyone, because I know we have also this conversation, having like women in tech is is a kind of interesting debate right now in our society. And I know you have spoken to some conference as well around that. So how did your personal brand now helped you in the last role, being a woman, being in tech?
Okay, so in my last role in tech, so when I joined EDS, I was there for 16 years because Hewlett Packard acquired us. So I spent essentially 16 years at what it is now, Hewlett Packard Enterprise. So for the last 10 years, I was a sales executive. And how did personal branding help me? Well, because my biggest strength that I learned during that time was relationships and connection, which is a big part of my framework now. It's about people realizing that. And for me, when I was younger, when I heard networking, the meaning I associated with it was like brown nosing. It's like, that's not my thing. No, not interested. It's not for people who are genuine, authentic. Really fake or false. But I'm naturally someone who just chats, and I like to get to know people and so forth. So in the company, as I was working today, I built really strong relationships, but it wasn't necessarily intentional. It's just because that's what I enjoy, that's what I do. But then I started to notice that when it came to the business that we were in, for example, I would have a really good reputation around that, and people would then come back to me. I built up a very strong reputation around both my work ethic, my responsiveness, but also that I was easy to work with. So I could get on the phone and have a chat, and like weekends and all of that. But then when work needed to get done, work got done. That was the difference. Whereas I could see there's a lot of people around me who didn't see the value of that. In fact, I had one guy I worked with who said blatantly that I'm not here to make friends. I'm here to work. And if I need something from someone, then I'll ask them. And in my head, I was like, well, that's not going to work. I could because we were in sales, every month end was like a quarter end. It was like real full on to get all the deals in. And every month I had to call in favors to get documents signed and things. And every month I would have people in my team who I worked alongside coming to me to ask to call in the favors for them to get their deal signed, because I had a lot of the relationships, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Those kinds of things that I noticed. I also had one client, it was our biggest client, who they were told to take the business away from us because we were too expensive. And at a very high level, the two companies were gelling. And they could have just done that and said, yes, fine. And we would have seen it drop off. But the guy, the account exec, picked up the phone to me, told me about the conversation, said, this is what we've been told we have to do. We don't want to do this. We want to work with you. We've worked with you for years. You know our business. You understand us. You're really responsive. You support us as a partner. This isn't just sales.
Yeah.
And these are the rates you've got to meet. Please, can you go and do something? I had to go and beg and plead to get close to those rates so we could retain that business. And I thought he didn't have to do that. The easier option would have been to just move on. And we, between us, created that business case for him to take up so that they could continue to work with us. And those are the sort of things that for me show me what relationships are about. And even now, that particular client and some of my other clients still will come and we'll go meet for coffee, or there's a group of them who will come down to where I live. They get on the tube and come down and meet me to go out for a curry locally. And I'm like, wow, that's just cool.
That's powerful. That's cool. I agree with you. That's cool. That's powerful. And I want to know as well, like I asked you before, like how did you feel when you had that conversation with your manager? Now I want to ask you, like, how did you feel when you had some of the situation where like this client called you up and said, we want to work with you because of you, because you treated us well all these years. How did you feel in that moment?
A sense of pride, a sense of I'm showing up as my best self in my job, because I have very high standards. I have very high expectations of people around me, which isn't necessarily a positive thing. It can cause frustration, of course. But from a work perspective, that's why I loved what I did, because you were responsible for your own portfolio. So I could put my all into it, but I would also see the results from that.
Yeah.
And it showed me how far I'd come from being that shy person who would never have been able, my sales director would push me to go. He said at one point, your job is to go and schmooze with all your clients. And I'm like, I've got work to do, like real work. He's like, do that tonight. When you get home, just, they love you. They, go talk to them and get on with them. I even had a competitor recommend, so they had the competitor and us and the client. They told the client to go work with me on a particular deal.
Wow.
Right? And they said, please take the business to me, because not HPs as such, because it was so problematic and they knew that I would get it done. And it's interesting, you just reminded me, actually, when I first started out at EDS, my boss at the time, he said, he goes, oh, so-and-so called you a Rottweiler, right? I got really upset. I was like, how dare he? And I was like really, really upset about it. And he's like, well, it's a compliment. I'm like, how? And he said, because the guy was saying that, oh, she's a Rottweiler. She doesn't let go. She does not give up. She just, tenacity is the word, really.
Yes.
If you just keep going and going and going until you get a result, till you get something done. And that's what I continue to see as a pattern, I guess, that I had.
And that's what got you also to start your business and be where you are right now. So I love in the first part of the interview always exploring the stories of the guests that I have on the show, because there is so much to learn on top of the frameworks and the strategies that we discuss. There is just so much to learn from the experience and hearing from experiences of others. I've learned so much about the power of relationship, how strong relationship can actually be more powerful than a deal, or a company can really make decisions in companies on multi-million-pound deals and so on. So definitely a lot to learn. Now let's look at your framework. Because I know you have a framework that you have built to help your clients with their personal brand. So let's look at the elements of the framework.
Yeah, so within the framework, it's called the Unique Personal Brand Blueprint. And essentially, I've identified 6 pillars, which are the core pillars that I believe we need to master to really have a strong personal brand. And this is different from what you hear a lot of people talk about when they say personal branding, because the majority of people refer to your online presence, your LinkedIn profile, and so forth. For me, the blueprint comes first, because this is about you as an individual, how you show up as a person. And so we look at the 6 pillars, and they all begin with the letter C. So the first one is clarity. And that's the bit that makes people really uncomfortable, because it's about introspection, looking at yourself and really getting to understand who you are, what you stand for, what you want to be known for. So your values, your beliefs, things that are non-negotiable for you, which means that when you show up, you're your true authentic self. You're not trying to put on a front to necessarily fit in. You adapt, of course, which is different, but you're aligned in who you are. So when you come to, for example, creating your LinkedIn profile, that is aligned to who you are in person.
Yeah.
That's the first one. The second one is confidence, and that's all about mindset. Why is that important? It's important because a lot of people feel that they just want tools and strategies and off they go, the practical stuff. But actually, my belief is that your mindset is the biggest thing that can hold you back from moving forward. If you don't have that optimal mindset. And that's really about working at building that, and habitual, activities to just keep building self-awareness. That's a really big part of it.
Yeah.
And then the third is captivate. Captivate is all about presence. Many people believe communication is all about what we say, the words that we use, but that's, as you know, Simone, it's 7%. So 93% is non-verbal. And that's what we look at in presence, about how you show up and make a really compelling impression before you've even opened your mouth to say something. And then the next one's communicate, which is the 7%. So that's looking at, for example, presenting, when you're in a meeting, when you walk into your office, etc., whether it's online or offline. So how you communicate effectively in a compelling and engaging way. And the fifth one is connect. And connect is all about relationships. So building connection, how to do it, why it's important, and particularly about the importance of building a circle of advocates around you, people who've got your back, people who are your supporters. Because that, again, can make all the difference, if you're looking for a job or you're growing your business, whichever it is. And then the final one is cultivate, and that's about cultivating leadership, both for yourself, so your personal leadership, being able to show up as a leader in your own right and having the ability to influence your outcomes. And then by virtue of doing that, you have people who want to, for example, follow you, you to lead them, or because you inspire them. You have a voice, you have an opinion, and you can bring those people up with you. So that's the
absolutely love it. Let's do a quick recap of the sixth one, like all the 6 C's.
So number 1 is clarity, the self-reflection. Number 2 is confidence, which is mindset. Captivate, which is presence. Communicate, which is what it says on the tin. Connect, which is relationships, and cultivating leadership.
It's brilliant how comprehensive it is. So when I was listening, I was like, yeah, tick, 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 tick. It ticks all the boxes, because I agree with you. We do a lot of things as part of the Profile Builder. You're also one of our coaches in the Profile Builder. Is more about your external profile. We don't do that part of the inner work. It's more about how do you get featured on publications, how do you get featured on media, how do you get on TV, how do you get on speaking engagements. But you're right. Without the strong sense of self and knowing who you are, knowing how you want to show up, then even doing all those activities, it becomes more difficult. But most of the time we tend to work with people that have already gone through a process most of the time of self-discovery, because then it means that they can show up in the best way on media. But you're doing the work, which is the inner work, to get them ready to then show up in the best version of themselves and being confident in who they are. And a lot of people, they want the accolades. They want the shiny things. I want to be featured there, I want to be seen there, I want this position, I want to be the senior manager, I want to be the CEO. But they're not willing to do the inner work, because it can be tough. Can be tough, as you mentioned.
Right?
The clarity part can be uncomfortable. So with the 6 C's, is there one that you would like to explore in particular in this interview for the next 10 minutes that we have?
Yeah, we could do that. I'd say maybe the mindset one, so the confidence.
Let's look at the mindset one. Yes, so crucial. I mean, I remember, man, even like when I started, everything that was holding me back was the mindset, what's the confidence of will people, first of all, it was, will people understand what I have to say? Because my English wasn't that great. But then there was a huge imposter syndrome that I had, because as mentioned, I started my coaching business at 22. And the people that were sold me the course in life coaching, they didn't mention that people will not buy life coaching from a 22-year-old for obvious reason. So I found myself actually being questioned all the time, and that gave me a big knock on my confidence. So let's talk about the mindset side. Where does someone start if they want to work on this part?
Where does someone start? I think when it comes to mindset, it's really, for me, it's all about self-awareness. It's almost just starting with that self-reflection every day. So looking at simple scenarios that happen throughout the day and how you respond to them. And then being objective with yourself as to, okay, what could I have done differently in that situation to have gotten a different outcome? So if something's happened and it's gone badly, it's about looking at ourselves. Because I used this analogy this morning with a client. You've got the victim of circumstance and you've got the master of your life, right? How you lead your life.
Yeah,
And it's a little bit harsh, right? In an extreme,
it
but
is.
you know, when you look at if you NLP and the language people use, the languages typically can be, well, everything is the responsibility of things outside of me, that's outside of my control. So you've got, for example, the weather, the government, the economy, Brexit, COVID, whatever, right? All those things that's got me into this situation. So I'm placing blame outside of me,
Yeah.
and I'm taking no responsibility for myself. And then the other extreme of that is you're a master of your life. So I talked earlier about the cultivating leadership, personal leadership. It's about taking responsibility. So actually take a step back and say, well, what can I actually influence? How much of this is down to me?
Yeah.
You know, even interactions with other people, the energy that you bring to that, the way that you show up, can or will directly influence the outcome of that experience with that person, whether it's working with them, having a conversation with them, trying to sell to them. It's all coming from you and how you show up. So that self-reflection and that awareness of how you're showing up can make such a huge difference. And I think a lot of people go through life almost sleeping, like they're not kind of conscious of how they're behaving, and actually that their own actions, their thoughts are creating the experiences that they have. And so for me, that's a really important starting point, is to start, and it's habitual. It's checking in with yourself constantly. I use an example here of this was about 3 years ago, I was invited to speak at an event, and it was a multi-speaker event. It was a Saturday morning. I had to get there. I was speaking in the afternoon. I'd had a heavy week at work. You know, I was traipsing across London in the rain and the cold, and I felt underprepared. My hair got wet, so it went frizzy. And I just felt like I looked like crap because I was really tired from the week. And I was sat at the back waiting to go up and speak. And as time got closer, I started to feel really anxious, really nervous. And because I've got that level of self-awareness, I was like able to check in with myself. And so the conversation in my head went like this. It was like, okay, what, because that's your feelings, your emotions,
Yeah.
right? So what thoughts have I got going on that's causing me to feel this anxiety about going up to speak? Because I wasn't forced to do it. I was invited. I chose to do it. And my thought process was, you know, I'm tired. I haven't prepared. I'll probably forget what I'm going to say. They're going to look at me and think I look like crap because my hair's all frizzy and whatever, you know, and I look tired. And I was like, okay, so right now I'm focusing on me. And as a speaker trainer as well, and I'm always telling my mentees, focus on your audience, right? It's not about you.
Yeah.
And so by having this internal conversation, I was able to realize very quickly and shift it. So I was like, okay, right now, the reason I'm feeling this is because I'm focusing on me. Why am I here? I'm here to serve this audience. I've been invited to by a friend of mine to speak at this event. I want to serve them. I want to inspire them. I want to educate them. It's about doing my best for them. They won't know if I forget something. They don't care what I'm wearing on my head.
True.
It's about the message. And by shifting my focus or having the self-awareness to realize what I was doing to create the emotion, to then shift my focus to have a better outcome, that's an example of what I mean. And that's why
It's definitely a perfect example, and is an example that people that are listening, a lot of speakers listening to the show, I'm sure that we all have been through that kind of day. I remember once where actually I was on stage, and I think just before going on stage, I bended over and I got a rip and on my bum crack, um, on the trousers. That wasn't. There was a lot of self coaching and inner talk to get on the stage and keep delivering.
and not
But
turn around.
well, no, I made it part of the presentation. Hey, you take either you're a victim or not. So I agree with you. It's a very strong language, but I think this is a great example on how you self-coached out yourself out of that particular moment, because our mind will always play games with us, will always give us an interpretation of the word. Now, I have another question built on this, because I found myself, there are situations where it's easier to take full responsibility,
Mm-hmm.
right? A situation where I'm like, yeah, I know, effed up, it's my fault, made a mistake. Or I could see, even if I don't see the mistake that I've made, I could see some of the things that I've done that led to that moment.
Mm-hmm.
But there are other moments where it feels like it's just on someone else. I'm like, literally, I was actually nice. I did good. I did my due diligence. I did everything I could. And then that happened.
Mm-hmm.
So how do you deal with the different now degrees of this situation, from one when it's easier to
Mm-hmm.
take that personal responsibility to another one where, it's like, even if I look, I cannot see anything I've done wrong.
Yeah. I guess for me, and because I haven't got context from you, but if I interpret that the way I think you mean, that's about understanding human behavior. And this comes a lot from my NLP training, which is about, we're all doing the best we can with the resources we have available to us. And sometimes that's really hard to digest. You look at behaviors of some people in the world, the bigger picture, and you think, how can you explain that? But then when you dig into it, you find, we're talking like criminals at all different levels. A lot of that is driven by their past experiences, their behaviors, what they know to be normal, right?
True.
And the example I always remember us being taught is the kid cycling past your house and chucking a brick through your window. Now, the first response to that is going to be, you're going to get really angry, you're going to probably chase the kid down the street and whatever, and think he deserves to be punished. But if you take the kid and say, right, he was doing the best he knew how, with the resources he had available, what was going on for the kid, right? Is it that his parents don't want to know, he's getting abused or bullied? It could have been a bunch of kids at the top of the road who threatening to beat the crap out of him if he doesn't do the dare to chuck the brick. So
that happens too. True.
What's he going to do, right? Mm-hmm. Or his parents are abusing him or something. He's like, he wants attention, so he's doing that to get attention because he knows by getting caught he'll probably be safer, right? Yeah. And so to answer your question, it's about bringing that awareness of what's going on for the other person. Mm-hmm. It's not always you in that situation. Then it's like they're projecting what's going on for them onto you. Yeah.
No, that's very powerful. That's very powerful. Is like what I'm hearing you saying is that, okay, you're going to have your emotion when someone does something to you, but at the same time, like, do your best, like, calm yourself down and see things from another perspective to what could have caused that reaction or that action in that particular person. Am I correct?
Yeah. And a lot of time, particularly in the work environment, it's insecurities. So people project their insecurities onto you. And I'm not talking about the simple things like, oh, I don't think you should do that because you're not good enough or you're not ready. Those are the nice softly ones. But, I've had experiences where, it's been quite difficult. It was actually a few years back when I published my book, and a colleague at work who we got on really well. And to the extent he'd asked me to coach him, and I didn't because I didn't want to. And back then I used to train a lot, and he talked to me about what I did at the gym and that. He started to, I didn't even realize, replicate, bought all this equipment at home, doing all this training.
Wow.
I was like, shit, right? Anyway, so we got on, we had banter and stuff at work. Came in and I hadn't seen him for a few weeks. And he said, oh, I hear your book's come out. And I said, yeah. And he goes, well, I'll shorten this down. But basically he said, well, just so you know, I'm not going to buy it because, you know, it's about success and achieving success. And, you know, if I was to read a book about success, I'd want to get it from someone who's achieved success.
Oh,
right? And I did not flinch. I didn't flinch. I literally stood there. I was so proud of myself. I was so composed. And I looked at him and I said, okay, well, we've all got our own definition of success, and that's fine. I said, so what's yours? So he spouted you know, family and kids and da 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 da. I was like, okay. I said, that's similar to mine. So, and I just said to him, I said, so know me as you do over 6 years, you don't believe that I've achieved success in anything I've done. And he's like, no, not at all. And I said, okay, well, I said, that's cool. I said, that's your opinion.
Wow.
And there was 5% of me, honestly, hand on heart, 5% that wasn't even upset, it was disappointed.
Yeah.
Right? Because I knew he was projecting his insecurities, what he hasn't done with his life, onto me. We didn't talk for a year, but you know what I really learned was powerful in that? Wow. Because I didn't react to him.
Yeah.
He didn't know where he stood with me for about a year.
Are we cool? We're not cool? Are we friends? We're not friends? Huh.
And I'm the kind of person, so we hot desk at work. So sometimes he'd come and he'd be sat near me and I'd always say, hi, how you doing? And I'd make a bit of chit chat. But he was always, you could see he was really uncomfortable because he knew what he'd done. And he didn't know what to do with it. But for me, I could have been anyone that he was projecting his.
In that moment, it was you. In that moment, it was you. It was the book that represented something for him.
Yeah.
Wow. I mean, I'm aware by the time now, we got to wrap up. So it has been an incredible interview and a lot of gold from, you know, how to deal with our mindset, how to deal with others when somehow they can hurt us in a certain, in a way. How to brand yourself on like being true to yourself and having that confidence to play to your strength and having the tools to understand who you are. So if someone wants to reach out to you, work with you, or explore what you do, what are the best ways to reach out to you?
Best way to reach out is LinkedIn. So you can find me on LinkedIn, just direct message me, or on Facebook, because I think this is going out on Facebook as well. Message me and we can have a chat.
All right, that's brilliant. So the website is also in the show notes, or if you're watching right now live in our group, then you can definitely connect immediately. I've tagged Leela here on the post in the live stream, so make sure to reach out to her. I'll put also the LinkedIn, but you can find it very easy at Leela Singh. And then make sure to reach out to her and let this not be the end of the learning into personal branding, but let this be the beginning. So make sure you invest time and energy into really understanding who you are and how you can show up in the world in the best way. Leela, thank you very much for being on the show. Really appreciate it.
My pleasure, Simone. Thank you for having me.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for watching live. If you're live, thank you for listening. If you're listening to the show, thank you if you're watching on YouTube, thank you, YouTube people. Really appreciate it. Make sure you subscribe in your favorite social media platform on the show, and as well subscribe on the podcast. Leave us a review. It really helps. It really helps the show. The reviews are the lifeblood of us show. So make sure you let us know what you enjoyed the most about this episode. Now it's time for me to wrap up. I'll see you next time, and remember that together we grow exponentially. Ciao.
Thank Thank you for listening. If you enjoyed today's episode, then please do subscribe to the show so you don't miss any future episodes. And remember to leave a review telling us about your key learnings and what you enjoyed the most. And do share this podcast with your friends and colleagues so we can spread the word on the importance of personal branding when it comes to your career advancement. And also ensure that others can benefit from these invaluable insights from many inspirational leaders. I will be eternally grateful. And if you are looking to earn more money, to get promoted, to secure your next role and advance your career, and would like me to support you personally on that journey to get you there, then reach out to me and let's arrange a chat. Alternatively, why don't you check out my personal branding launchpad, a group training and mentoring program. Finally, if you'd like to connect with me directly, then do reach out and direct message me on LinkedIn. You can find the link as well as any other resources mentioned in the show notes. I'll see you next time.